Late start today, but I'm here. Let's see. Write a query that returns every user from the users table, including all columns. Select an additional column named discount percent. The discount percent column should have an integer value of 10 or 0, depending on whether the user matches any discount condition listed above. Okay, that's a little tricky one. Select star from users. And you basically need to add an, what was it? An IIFE or an IF. What was the name of that thing? SQL IIFE. No, it's IIF. IIF. So IIF as discount percent. So if it's not, if it is true, we return 10. If it's not true, return 0, right? Yes, no. So we're going to say age is greater than users who qualify for either. So it'd be age is greater than 55 or country code equals CA. Like that. I think that's it. Sometimes we don't want to retrieve every record from a table. For example, it's common for a production database table to have millions of rows. Selecting all of them might crash your system. The limit keyword has entered the chat. Wonder how many people have crashed something by forgetting to write limit. A lot of our users have been using CashPal to pay other users for lunch. Let's take a look at a sample of that data. Write a query that returns all rows and fields from transactions table with the following conditions. Okay. Good morning, Arvin. Nice to see you this morning. Hope you're doing well. Where note is like lunch, limit 5. Limit will always turn exactly 5 records true. What? Oh. False. Why might you use a limit clause? To get as much data as possible to avoid selecting a huge amount of data and crashing your system. Sleepy even though I slept 6 hours. How do you feel? I was sleepy this morning. I didn't wake up till probably 5:30 this morning. I stayed up way too late. I stayed up till like 11:30 last night. That's late for me these days. Especially getting up to stream makes it a challenge. So I'm very much enjoying this cup of coffee right now. All right. Good morning, Kale. You lost your other job, but that's okay because I haven't got time for any of it anyways. Not the full-time one. Yeah, as long as it's not the full-time gig. The full-time gig's still kicking. Yeah, I think you'll be fine, you know? Yeah, also you've oh, don't worry about the autocorrect. Yeah, also plus you still have your degree, so you still got plenty of irons in the fire. In my opinion. Ugh. Let's see where amount between 10 and 80. Order by amount descending. Yeah, it wasn't like, hey, you suck. It was, hey, you don't have time. We don't have the money. We gonna have to figure it out. Hey, I feel you. I mean, what are you supposed to do if someone doesn't have the money to pay you, right? It's just, it is what it is. Which query would potentially return the data in example 1? Order by age descending. This one. An HR employee got into the Git repository where we store all the queries. Tried to update a query on their own. Fixed the bug in the SQL query. Just imagine an HR person finding themselves in a Git repository. What strange place have I landed myself in? Returns the name and username for every user with a password equal to we probably shouldn't be querying against people's passwords. Those should be hashed, right? Let's see, we or password. Oh, we can do, actually, can't we do this? We can actually do this. Password in SQL rocks. Orders the record so the names are in alphabetical order. So we'd want to do order by name. Success. The front-end team is building a dashboard page in CashPal. We need to be able to provide them the number of successful transactions for a given user. Return the number of transactions where the user ID is 6 and was successful is true. Where user ID equals 6 and was successful equals true. Oh, transactions. We can also sum stuff. We need to be able to calculate the current balance for a given user because we don't yet store the running balance on each individual transaction record. Write a query that returns the sum aggregation of the amounts for all of Bob's successful transactions. User ID is 9. Check the file for more details. Okay, so select sum of amount where user ID equals 9. No column amount. Oh, from transactions. Oh man, he's in the negative, huh? Boo, that sucks. Oh shit. All of Bob's successful transactions and was successful equals true. There we go. So it's not so bad. Was negative $41, now it's negative 14. Use a max aggregation to return the age of our oldest CashPal user. So select max age from users. Alias the return column so it's just named age. Okay. 65. Oh shoot. Use a max aggregation to return the age of our oldest CashPal user who's where is admin equal. They keep getting me with the oh, also I forgot to start my timer. No. Use a min aggregation to find only the age of our youngest CashPal user in the United States in the users table. The country code of the United States is US. Alias, okay. So select min age as age from users where, they didn't get me this time, where country code equals US. Let's get the balance of each user with successful transactions all in a single query. Use the sum aggregation with the group by clause. The row for each user should contain the user ID and their balance, an aliased sum of successful transaction amounts. Okay, so select user ID sum, oops. Then we want to sum, what? What do we want to sum? The amounts from user, no, from transactions. But we only want to do it where was successful equals true. Then we want to group by user ID. And we need to alias this as balance. Making progress, man. Our marketing team is trying to determine the best marketing channels to advertise through, but they need more information about our current users. They want to know the average age of users in the United States. Return a single value representing the average age of all users whose country code is US. So select average age from users where country code equals US. The having clause is similar to the where clause, but it operates on groups after they've been grouped rather than rows before they've been grouped. Okay, let's see. Your query should return a sender ID and a balance. The balance is the sum of all amount. Oh, this is kind of a involved one. So let's select sender ID. We want the sum of amounts as balance. Don't return any rows that have a null sender. So we'll do where sender ID is not null, like that. Don't return any rows that have a null sender ID. Only return transactions that were successful. And was successful equals true. And note like percent lunch percent. Then once we get here, we want to group by sender ID. Then we need a having clause that says having balance greater than 20. I actually don't know if I can reference that up above as balance, but I'm going to try. Order the results by balance. So order by balance. Okay, not null. Logic error. No such column sender ID. What are you talking about? Yeah, there is. Oh, that would have probably helped. That was a little more involved, wasn't it? A where condition is applied to all the data in a query before it's grouped by a group by. Having condition is applied only to the grouped rows that are returned after a group by is applied. In the example, should you use a where or a having clause to filter down to specific class ID values? I guess we could use having. So So why can't we use having? Why couldn't... Oh, I guess I probably should answer the second question first. In the example... Oh, I was already on it. In the, where should you use a where or a having clause to filter down classes of a particular size? Having. Let's see. Why couldn't you use a having clause to filter based on class ID after grouping? Is that you actually could use having? Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh, you've done a bunch of unnecessary work. Which I guess makes sense, right? If you're just going to get rid of that data anyways, probably the earlier in the pipeline, the better. Fix the query so that it returns the average as a whole number. Rename the resulting column to round. Okay, so we do as round age, and they want us to round to a whole number. Dude, we are crushing XP. I earned 3,000 XP in like 15 minutes this morning. It took me 5 days. It felt like to earn 3,000 XP doing that guided Pokédex course. Maybe I'm just slow. Maybe I'm just a really slow coder. Write an equals SQL statement that returns 2 columns, the country code and the average age of users for records with that country code. Okay, select country code, average, we want average age as average from users, where, or no, group by country code. And then we need to round the whole number. Success. Okay, in this hypothetical database, you're not a slow coder, trust? I don't know, man. I sometimes I feel like it, but I'll take your word for it. Especially with the stream. Yeah, I think the stream does slow me down quite a bit. Like yesterday, I was building some little test bed harness, little test app for exploring a new piece of technology at work, and I flew through that, you know? But then when I get on stream, I feel like I crawl. One of the CashPal's customer service representatives needs us to pull all the transactions for a specific user. Trouble is they only know the user's name, not their ID. Okay. Use a subquery to return all transaction details for the user with the name David. Okay, select star from transactions. And then we're gonna nest a query. Chelsea slows me down, that code. Yeah, blame it on the significant other. And if I try and talk while coding, yeah, talking while you code is just, yeah, it's just too difficult because I mean, obviously, if you're like vibe coding, if you're talking to an AI and just waiting for the AI to finish doing what you told it to do, that's one thing. But yeah, if you're trying to really lock in and focus while also holding a conversation, yeah, that's gonna be a difficult one. Okay, I think I have to do it like this. Select. Yeah, I'm not sure how. Okay, so use a subquery to return all transaction details for the user with the name David. Okay, so there's the user ID, right? So I think what I need to do is I need to do user ID from users where name is like David. Or maybe they want literal equals because they said for the user with the name David. With the name David implies probably equals. And then I honestly don't. Hold on. Okay, I just need to try something. Select star from transactions where name in. See, I think it has to be, or maybe where user ID. Select star from users where, there we go. I think this is what they're looking for, equals David. Subselect returns 7 columns, but expected 1. The only syntax unique to a subquery is the parentheses surrounding the nested query. The in operator could be different. For example, we could use the equals operator if we expect a single value to be returned. So just maybe name. Okay, I got nothing. So let's try like. Still nothing. Where have I gone wrong? I can read your query. What value does transactions.user ID store? A user's name or their numeric ID? Make the inner query return the same kind of value as user ID. Oh, so you're telling me I need to do this. Is that what you're telling me? Okay, but that produces an error. Which single column from users corresponds? Select only that column. I guess I'm still not understanding. Okay, transactions.userid contains a number that identifies a user. The users table has that same identifier in its ID column. So ask yourself if the outer condition is where you... Ah! Okay. So what is the execution order of subqueries? Oh, that's still not right. Conceptually, SQL evaluates the inner query first. Find the user row where name equals David. Returns the user's identifier. Use that result to filter rows in the transactions whose user ID matches it. One detail, does the users table schema contain a column named user ID? Or is its identifier column something else? Oh, yes. You are right. Okay, so conceptually what's happening is we go and find this thing first. Then we use that to filter this. Yeah, okay, that's a little confusing to me, but I probably just need more practice writing subqueries like that. Okay, the example. How many rows will it return? In this hypothetical database, the query above selects all the IDs, song names, and artist IDs from the songs table that are written by artists whose name starts with Rick. Notice that the subquery allows us to use information from a different table, in this case, the artist table. So it could potentially return many, I think. Certain customers have been using their personal cash pal. Cash pal is trying to contact these customers so they can upsell business accounts. Using a subquery, write a SQL statement that retrieves a full user record for every user who matches the sender ID in a transaction with invoice or tax mentioned anywhere in the transaction note and is not an admin. Okay, so I think this is where at the top level, let's select star from users, where in, and then we have our nested query here. Matches the sender ID. So I think this would be where ID in select sender ID. And is not an admin. Okay. So I guess you can do tag something on here and is admin equals false. Is admin. Okay, and ID is in what? Select sender ID, note from transactions where note is like percent invoice. I don't think I'm gonna get this one right. I'm probably gonna have to use boots for this one again. Or note like. Okay, subselect returns 2 columns, expected 1. So I think that's this. So whatever this returns, right? So if we're wearing on this field, then this needs to return a single field. But obviously, because we're in a nested query, I can still write where clauses against other fields that aren't in the select statement. Okay. So it runs, but it's not correct. So what are we missing here? Let's look at the invoice or not tags. There we go. There we go. Okay. That makes more sense to me. So if I have a field and I want to use that field to filter the top level select, this query basically is going to produce me the list of values for the in clause, right? So you're basically deriving the list of in values instead of just hard coding them. That makes sense. Finance has found that people who have lived longer than 40 years need to start thinking about retirement. Write a query that 40? Longer than 40 you have to think about retirement. Fuck that, man. I've been thinking about fucking retirement since I was 25 years old. That's some bullshit. Let's see. Write a query that returns all columns for all users who are more than 40 years old. Break time. Break time, coffee time, all the things. All the things. I forgot I was gonna build this. I was gonna rebuild this be right back into a little utility. I need to do that. Forgot about doing that. All right, I'm gonna start the water. Here we go. Binance has found that some people who have lived longer than 40 years need to start thinking about retirement. Write a query that returns all columns for all users who are more than 40 years old. So select star from users where age, what? Age in days. Why would someone do that? Use a subquery to convert 40 years to days and filter on that. Where age in days is in, select age in days times 40? No, times 40 times 365, like that, as target. Okay. Unfortunately, this table awkward. Okay, I'll use a subquery to convert 40 years to days. I don't think I understand. Where age is greater than, where age in days. Write a query that returns all columns for all users who are more than 40 years old. Okay. Huh. What happens if I don't alias this? It still works. Okay. Interesting. I've never seen that before. I'm learning. I mean, I am definitely learning new things about SQL. SQL can operate on data stored in tables. True. Oh, can only. Gosh, man, I gotta read better. Oh no. Here we're coming to the worst parts of SQL. This stuff just screws with my mind, particularly joins. Okay, normalization.
The one thing you don't want to screw up when you're architecting your database is the relationships. One-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many. These relationships need to be accurate. If you get that right, almost any other mistake is easily fixable. So let's start with one-to-one. Say we have a table that contains all the students that attend boot.dev. Every student row has a unique ID and an enrolled at date. So 2 columns. Now, say we want to also store the student's name. We could make a new table called student names with a name column, and then add a foreign key column like student ID to link the records together between the tables. But honestly, that wouldn't make a lot of sense. 99% of the time, when you have a one-to-one relationship, like the relationship between a student entity and their name, you should just add a new column to the existing table. So now the student table has 3 columns: ID, created at, and name. A student can only ever have one name, so we store it directly on the table. Now, what about a one-to-many relationship? Well, a student needs...
It's actually interesting you said that, because there's a pattern that they've used in Basecamp with Active Record where they actually do stuff like what he just described, right? Where they basically they model things as like has name, right? Is nameable, and a nameable can have, you know what I mean? It's kind of interesting.
Sometimes one fails, so we want them to be able to add multiple on file. We could add new columns like credit card 1, credit card 2, credit card 3, and that would sort of work. But what happens when we want to add a 4th payment method? We would need to add another new column. And what happens when a specific student only has 2 payment methods? Well, we end up with some null columns. And what if we need to add nicknames to the payment methods themselves? Do we duplicate all the columns, like credit card 1 name, credit card 2 name? This approach gets really messy and honestly buggy pretty quickly. The correct
Excuse me.
approach is to recognize that a single student can have many credit cards, so we need a one-to-many relationship. We typically model that by using 2 tables, students and credit cards. The student table might have ID created at and name, and the credit card table might have ID created at card name and name. Then we can link or relate a student to their cards by adding a foreign key to the many side of the relationship. In this case, we add a student ID column to the credit cards table, and that ID should match the ID on the student table. So we can now have many credit card rows in the credit cards table that all point to the same single student ID. Now, say we want to add a student's classes to the database as well. Now, you might think this is another one-to-many situation, but if we follow the same pattern as before, we'd actually end up with a copy of every class record for every student that's in that class. For example, let's say we've got 2 classes, Computer Science 101 and Business 105. If 30 students...
Hey, Kanjani. What's happening? My bad. Your streams haven't showed up on my feed, so I haven't checked. Oh, no worries at all. We're just we're doing boot.dev. It's like a learning platform, but it's kind of like a gamified experience where you can earn XP and level up and whatnot. I'm just trying to get to level 100. Hello, Pyro Boots. Yo, I haven't caught a stream in a while. Well, I've been here, just sitting in the chair,
students are
doing
enrolled in
boot.dev.
each, and we've modeled it as a one-to-many relationship.
It's good.
Then we'd have 30 student records.
Oh, also, I forgot
and
my coffee.
60 class records. Most
Let me get that. I forgot. Okay, I'm back. What's the countdown for? Oh, it's just a Pomodoro timer. It's just 25 minutes trying to focus, and then 5 minutes of jacking around and lifting a kettlebell and making coffee, talking to chat. Just a way to kind of make sure that even though
Currently,
I'm
if we
streaming,
change
I
the name-
still get something done.
Computer Science 101 to CS 101, we need to update 30 different records to reflect the change accurately. And if we don't, we could have 15 students still in a class called Computer Science 101 and 15 students in a class called CS 101, even though it's the same class. So this approach is really prone to bugs. The right way to model it is as a many-to-many relationship, which we do by adding a third joining table. Many students can be in the same class, and a single student can take many classes. So our schema will look like this: a students table with columns ID created at and name, and a classes table with columns ID created at and name. But we'll have 30 records in the users table and only 2 records now in the classes table. And the key difference is that now we have a students classes table with a student ID and a class ID. So to represent a student being in a class, we just add a record to the students classes table, and it represents the relationship between the two. Now we can add any student to any class, and we have a single source of truth for each student record and for each class record. If we want to update the name of a class, we only have to update it in one place. So the joining table just manages the relationships, which in this case represents enrollment.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Tell me why accountants use SQL and Databricks. I thought that would be data engineering. That's interesting. I did not know that. I did not know accountants were writing SQL these days, but I'm guessing, if I had to guess, it's if accountants are having to write SQL and there's not a good abstraction for it, maybe it's a performance related thing. Yeah, I don't know. You would think what you'd want to do is you'd want to put the SQL behind some sort of nice, pretty GUI. I have recently found they do to do complex queries for bills. Huh. Seems error prone. I think I would much rather have some sort of GUI in front of them, like a report builder type of interface. But I guess if you have a set of if you have a set of accountants who aren't scared of learning SQL, yeah, that's what Databricks is for, but they have to make the automation, I guess. Huh. Very interesting. I would have never guessed. I would have guessed they were still in the land of just mostly Excel and spreadsheets. But I mean, the thing is, if you can write a complex Excel formula, which I know I've seen accountants do that, then you can probably learn SQL, right? I was watching our accounts chick on Databricks coding SQL automations. Yeah, that's crazy. But it makes sense. I mean, if you're good with an Excel spreadsheet, you can most definitely manipulate a SQL database, right? Especially if it's like a read-only or a replicated database where you're not actually querying against like live, like where it's not a scary thing if you screw up a query. And I'm guessing Databricks probably has like a way of managing all that in a safe manner. That's how I got into coding XLOOKUP. Yeah, if you can do an XLOOKUP or a VLOOKUP, that's probably everyone's first interaction is VLOOKUPs. If you can do a VLOOKUP, you can probably figure out SQL or really any semi simple programming task. All right, create a new table called devices with 4 fields. Should have an ID, MAC address, type, user ID, and an integer. Okay. Think I can do that? Create table. I bet those accountants are better at SQL than I am. They probably write more SQL than I do. 4.7 gigabytes of RAM for an XLOOKUP table with 10 columns and 42 rows is shit. Yeah, that seems like a lot of memory. But what are you gonna do, I guess? It's Excel. Crap, I started recording a macro. User ID. Just gonna be integer. Users. Yeah. User ID, foreign key to the ID field of the users table. So how do I forget how to do foreign keys. Oh, they got an example right there. So let's add a foreign key, which is the user ID, and it references users ID. Error near MAC address. Oh, can't forget the comma. Now do it. Oh, we don't need one here. There we go. Microslop. Isn't just FK. I actually have no. It's just foreign key. And then if you want to name it, you add the constraint keyword. Oh, now we're... Okay. Let's see. Joining tables help define many-to-many relationships. Okay. Unique constraint across 2 fields. When enforcing specific schema constraints, we may need to enforce the unique constraint across 2 different fields. Unique product ID, unique supplier ID. This lets multiple rows share the same product ID or supplier ID, but it prevents any 2 rows from having both the same product ID and supplier ID. Let's rethink our user country relationship. Originally, each user had a single country code field, but many users have dual citizenship. If we just gave the countries table a user ID, we would have duplicate country records. Okay. Use a joining table. Remove the country code field from the users table. Okay. Removed. Done. I will probably switch the data path, but just to help with work after I finish the backend path. Do they have a data path? Oh, they do. They have a data analyst path. Is that new? Or has that always been there? Looks like for the most part, it's a lot of the same courses. Except for Learn Pandas. Oh, huh. Interesting. I've never noticed. They have, that would be a good, I mean, this would honestly be a good course for anybody who works in just about any field these days to understand how to work with data. This one's kind of interesting. They teach you RAG as part of a data analyst. That seems weird. But these 2 would be good. Yeah, Power BI and Pandas would be good, but I think the other ones seem either, I guess, sort of kind of related or not. I don't know. I don't know why a data analyst would necessarily need to learn Linux. You know? I feel like maybe this should say data engineer or something. But yeah, that'd be good for sure. I think I'm gonna get to level 100 and just peace out. Actually, I might get to level 100 and then I might do the Kubernetes course because I do want to learn. I want to learn that at least once or be exposed to it at least once. Create a new table called countries. Okay. Yeah, I've never used it before. I've never done anything with it. I've just heard people talk about it, and it always seems very intimidating. When it comes up, I just nod my head and say, yeah, Kubernetes, yes. Of course. Just a bit different to Docker. Well, that's kind of how it came into my world, was getting more and more into using Docker to run my apps. But I just never went further. It was like, it always seemed too complicated. It seemed like too much for my own personal use. But I feel like it's definitely something I should have awareness of, so that if it comes up in my professional life, I can at least have a conversation with somebody about it. I don't know. I feel like a lot of these things are kind of like... I have heard of Docker Swarm. I've never used it, but I've heard of it, just like with Kubernetes. I feel like a lot of these things are where you can know about a technology, but you're not really going to be exceptionally good at it unless you get a lot of reps at it, right? And there's only so much time in the day, right? So nobody can be good at every single one of them. Hey, what's up, Artwork Studios? Indeed, long time no see. Yes, hope you're doing well. Hope school is going good for you. Hope you're living the dream. They're different too, though, so I can't really one-to-one them. Fair enough, fair enough. Let's see, K8s aren't simple, but I equate them to Docker swarms. I don't really use K8s for that reason. I use Docker. Fair enough. Been doing decent lately. School's been a hassle, though. Gotta do what I gotta do, though. Yeah, school. I think that's the definition of school, is it's a hassle. It's a hassle everybody has to get up and over. Real pain in the butt. Oh, is this supposed to be one statement? No, there should be a key there. It's logical error near open parentheses. There should be commas there. Success. Oh man, this is an 8-minute long video. Lock in, guys, lock in.
Academic definition of database normalization, but you can mostly just ignore it. Normalization is super important to understand. It seriously impacts the code that you write in the real world, but the technical category definitions are mostly just an academic exercise. That said, let's go over them in excruciating detail, and I'll give you the actual practical rule of thumb about how to use them at the very end. But first,
oh shoot, sorry, I forgot to update the doing message. I'll fix that.
The structure or
Hold on.
schema of
That's not what I'm doing.
so that it has less
That's what we were doing yesterday.
Data and more data.
I always forget to do that. We are working our way through the Learn SQL course on boot.dev. Main goal is to still reach level 100 Arch Mage. That's what we're doing. We're at level, and then for reference, we're at level 78 is what we're at currently. We're almost to level 79.
Correct data. So to put it simply, we want to store data in its simplest form with no copies, because copies can lead to bugs. For example, we might update one copy and forget to update the other copy, which gives us sort of this invalid state. Which one represents the truth? And normalization is a gradient. You can have a database that's more normalized or one that's less normalized. The more normalized the database is, the less duplicate data you have and the more correct the data is likely to be. Now, academics have defined 4 different normal forms: first, second, third, and Boyce Codd. As we move up from first to second to third to BCNF, the database becomes more and more normalized. Now, each form is just a set of rules. If the data in the database follows the rules, then the database is in that normal form. The rules build on each other, so second normal form has all the rules from first normal form plus some extra. Third normal form has the rules of second normal form plus some extra. You get the idea. So anyways, let's start with first normal form. It just has 2 rules. First, every row must have a unique primary key, and 2, there can be no nested tables. Now, rule number 2 is actually pretty easy to follow in practice. Most database systems don't even let you nest tables within each other, with the exception of like maybe embedding some JSON. But to understand rule number 1, let's say we have a users table with 2 columns, first name and age. And say we have a user in that table, Lane, who's 30. If another user signs up with the same name and age, Lane 30, we get a duplicate row. And this is what first normal form is supposed to prevent, because no duplicate rows are allowed. To fix it, we can just add a unique ID column as the primary key. We'll give the first row 1 and the second row ID 2. Now, these ID numbers would be generated by the application so that they can't be duplicated no matter what the user's name or age is. Okay, so that's first normal form. Now on to second normal form. We still have to follow all the rules of first normal form, but there is one additional rule. All columns that are not part of the primary key must be dependent on the entire primary key, not just part of it. And a primary key is usually a single ID column, but you can have a table with a primary key that's a unique combination of 2 or 3 or more columns. For example, you might have a users classes table that maps users to the classes they're in, as a user ID column and a class ID column. User 1 is in class 3, user 2 is in class 4, user 1 is in class 5. Now, there's not much point here in adding a third ID column because the unique combination of user ID and class ID does the job just fine. You can't enroll in the same class twice. That doesn't really make sense. When we use the term primary key in a software engineering sense, we're usually referring to an ID column or maybe a specific combination of columns that we've created a primary key around. But in an academic computer science normalization sense, primary key just means the smallest number of columns that can be used to uniquely identify a row in an actual data set. So say we have a table with 3 columns: first name, last name, and first initial. And then we have Lane Small, first initial L, Lane Brewer, first initial L, and Alan Small, first initial A. Now, this table technically follows first normal form because there are no duplicate rows and no nested tables, but it doesn't follow second normal form's rules. None of the columns can be a primary key by themselves because none have completely unique values, but we can choose a pair that creates a unique combination, like first name and last name. Now, with that definition of a primary key in mind, let's read the rule again. All columns that are not part of the primary key, in this case, just first initial, must.
You wonder what the video is about? The video is basically discussing the difference between different forms of normalization in data, moving from normal form 1, first normal form, second normal form, third normal form, and then you would think the next one would be called fourth normal form, but it's not. It's called Boyce Codd normal form. And so it's just basically discussing what the rules of each one are
primary key,
to figure out which form your data's in.
not just a part of it. The problem is that first initial is entirely dependent on just the first name column, which is a part of the primary key, not the whole primary key, so we've broken the rule. So to solve this, we can create a new table and move the first initial column there. It's a mapping table of first name to first initial. So we've got,
yeah, it's an academic thing. I think it's named after the researchers.
And on our first table, we just drop that first initial column. Now both tables follow the rules of second normal form. And if we need,
I've never had to deal with Boyce Codd normal form. Third normal form, yeah, but I
to
don't think
look
I've
up
ever
a
dealt with
first
that
initial by the user's
knowingly.
name, we just use that second table to do so. Now we don't have a duplicate mapping of Lane to L. We only store that relationship once. Now this may seem like a really silly example. Why would you store an initial alongside a name? You could just calculate it when you need it. And it is kind of a simple example. But there are times in the real world where you will have a column that kind of depends on another column. And rather than storing it many, many times, you can extract it out into another table. Now on to third normal form. It follows all the rules of first and second normal form, but now adds one additional rule. All the columns not in the primary key must be dependent only on the primary key. Let's go back to the same example, but add a unique primary key column. ID. So we've got 1 Lane small L, 2 Lane Brewer L, 3 Allen small A. Now you might think that this is the same problem as before, and it kind of is, but technically this table does follow second normal form because first initial is dependent on first name, and first name is not part of the primary key anymore because that's the new ID column. But fundamentally, we're still duplicating data. We know Lane maps to L, and we don't need to store that relationship twice. This table breaks third normal form because a column not in the primary key, first initial, is dependent on another column not in the primary key, first name. And again, we can solve this by moving the first name to first initial mapping to a separate table. Okay, last normal form, Boyce-Codd normal form. It adds one final rule. A column that is part of the primary key may not be dependent on a column that is not part of the primary key. It's important to note that Boyce-Codd normal form, or BCNF, was invented after first, second, and third normal forms, once they realized that there was still a way for duplicate data to slip into tables even if a table followed third normal form. For Boyce-Codd normal form to matter, the database has to be in a very specific state. Say we have a table with 4 columns: release year, release date, sales, and name. And we fill it up with all of this data. In this table, we have several possible candidate primary keys. Name could be the primary key on its own, or it could be a combination of release year and sales. The date column could also be a candidate primary key on its own. If we choose the combination of release year and sales as our primary key, the problem is that release year is fully dependent on the release date column. So we have a column in the primary key that is dependent on a column that's not part of the primary key. That doesn't break second or third normal form, but it does create duplicate data, and Boyce-Codd normal form fixes this edge case. Again, it says a column that's part of a primary key cannot be entirely dependent on a column that's not part of the primary key. Now, one way to fix this is to store year, month, and day in separate columns. But honestly, we could.
I love how I don't even know what you call them. The academics who came up with all this were like, "Oh shit, that's it." They basically just kept going. Ah shit, that's another edge case. What's a rule that prevents that? First normal, second normal, third normal. Ah shit, there's another one.
Just get rid of the release year column entirely because we already have the more specific date column. Okay, so these were the technical definitions, the academic definitions of first, second, third, and Boyce-Codd normal forms. But here's what I want you to remember as a real-world software engineer, not a computer science academic. Unless you have a really, really good reason, usually performance-related, don't denormalize your data. Try to keep it as normalized as possible. And for the most part, we just want full normalization. Boyce-Codd normal form, which when you ignore all of the other categories, we can talk about it much more simply. Just don't store redundant data. There should only be one way to represent the state that you're trying to represent in your database schema. Add unique primary key ID columns, and if you do that, you'll be just fine.
There you go. Boil it down. Okay, pick the best example of data redundancy. 2 tables both contain fields that store Boolean value. Nope. There you go. User address stored multiple places. Which form has the most duplicate data? Which form encourages the most accurate, up-to-date information? In the context of normalization, a primary key is made up of blank columns, one to many. Yeah. Gotta start the music again. Okay, to be compliant with first normal form, a database simply needs... Oh shit, this is some advanced stuff read on it, and it sounds very useful for data handling. Yeah, I think what he said, what Lane said there at the end, though, is that in most cases, as long as you're following best practices, you don't really need to be worried about, is it first, second, third, voice cod? You can just basically assume it's voice cod normalization. I had always thought that I was dealing with third normal, but I guess that fourth rule is also probably true in most cases where I've done any type of schema definition. But yeah, I think what he said at the end there makes the most sense. It's like, hey, just as long as your data is normal, as long as you're doing your best to prevent redundant data, you're probably in good shape, right? Use primary keys. Model your relationships. Don't store data in two places. Hey, Pickled Pickles. No one comes to the Father except through me. John 14:6. I haven't heard that Bible verse in a while. One of my favorite Bible verses is, I think it's 1 Timothy 2-8. No, that's not it. Forget, it's 2 Timothy 1 verse 1-7. That's one of my favorite Bible verses. But that's a good Bible verse too. There's a lot of good verses in the Bible. Yeah, I think it's 1 Timothy 2 Timothy 1-7. Apologies. All right, what are we doing now? We hired an intern at CashPal. Her first task was to design a new company's table. This table will store our business clients' data. Add an ID field as the first column. It should be an integer and have the primary key constraint. Integer. Yes, that is the one. That is the one. I hold on to that one many times in a given year. Acts 17:11. Peak. I like Philippians 4:13. Oh, that's a great one too. I mean, that's classic, right? Like that's you can't go anywhere. You can't go anywhere in the Midwest or the Southwest or the South United States or the Midwest United States on a Friday night and not find a Philippians 4:13 sign somewhere in the crowd. I'm not familiar with that one. Artwork Studios. That one's new to me. But yeah, it's always good to have something to hold on to. Did I just come back to the Bible study class? That's so funny. Yeah, that's a 180. Another developer on our team has created a joining table. Unfortunately, they did it a bit weird. They included meta information about companies on the joining table. Move the column that's out of place to the proper table. Be sure to add it as the last column. Revenue. You should be on the companies table here. Yeah, I'm not that one I'm not familiar with. Yeah, Acts 17 to 11. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. Third normal form is usually a good idea. Okay. If a company has more than 100 employees, we consider it large. Otherwise, it's small. That's something we can calculate from the num of employees field rather than storing it separately. Remove the size column from the company's table. Change the select statement to calculate a size field in the result set that works the same way. Okay, so remove the size column. Select star from companies. Oh, I see what they're getting at. Sorry, I was confused there for a second. Select star from companies. And then they're basically saying we should have a, what is it, an IIF as size that says if number of employees is greater than 100, then it will be large. Otherwise, it's small. Like that. Oh, nice. I see why you like it. You know, I'm just a Genesis 1 of 1 type of person. What's Genesis 1 of 1 say? Dude, my brother, he does he works for a ministry group they're called Young Life, Wildlife. They do ministry for like college, high school, and middle school age kids. And he's got pretty much like almost an encyclopedic mind when it comes to Bible verses. My mother-in-law has a pretty good memory too. Oh, that's okay. That's a pretty good one. Genesis 1 of 1 is that's a pretty good one, man. I agree with that. Yeah, that's. I've always wanted to take a Bible study course, or really just a history course that basically lays the stories or the history that's written in the Bible against what the secular history, right? Like overlay the events. So like here are the events that are described throughout the book of the Bible, and then overlay them on the history you would learn in school, and just kind of to try to understand better like how these supposed events, because I know some people say, there's some maybe not all truth in the Bible. So how would how would these overlay against that? I've always wanted to take a course that was structured that way. See Artwork Studios, have fun. You could use AI to do that. Yeah, you could. I'd love to take it from someone who like really knows their shit, you know? Like there's a guy on TikTok that sometimes I watch his videos. I think he's a professor in Austin, I think, in Texas somewhere. But he always does like his videos are always him giving like lectures about history. I don't know what his name is. See if I can find it. And I always find his lectures really engaging, you know? It's like there's something to be said about a teacher who's very good at teaching, right? Like I don't know if you've ever taken the CS50 course that's taught by David Malin. Like I don't know how anybody couldn't watch David Malin teach computer science and not think, I want to be in computer science. You know? Like the best teachers have this infectious nature to them. Yeah. Yeah, Yeah, that'd be cool too. Yeah, David's great. CS50 is amazing. It really is. Yeah. I wish we were all given the opportunity to have teachers and professors like that. You know, I think it would have probably changed a lot of our individual experiences with school and different subjects. I like it. There's some other CS50 fans. Good morning, Marcos. Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. What should you optimize for? Speed or reducing duplicate data? When you don't need a composite key, what should the name of your primary key be? Which is more important for your career in backend development? Memorizing the exact definitions or internalizing simple rules of thumb regarding database normalization? This assignment I'm doing wants me to make classes, but like pseudo classes, but didn't teach it. Like, where do I find it? I guess it's in the textbook. That's my weekend gone. Yeah, that's not very helpful. I'd probably just write the classes using C# because that usually feels the most, either that or TypeScript, because those feel the most at hand. I guess you could also, I always find JSON to be a nice way to model kind of the shape of data. That's usually pretty easy to understand across languages, you know? I've got this object, it's got these properties, right? You can sort of, it's kind of translatable to most things nowadays. Oh, they want you to diagram them too. Nice. There's got to be a tool for that. Didn't someone make a tool for that? UML diagrams? That's a thing, right? I guess it's quite scripted. I'll have to find it in the textbook. Oh, fun. Oh, fun. Oh, you gotta do it by hand. Well, hey, man, you're not gonna catch any flack from me on that, because I'm over here talking about how people should still do things by hand every now and again. Create a new table called banks that contains any bank-related columns that were incorrectly added to the users table. Okay, so let's just copy these guys. Okay, we'll turn this into ID, make that your primary key. We'll give it a name. Draw them and scan them. That'll work. Or if it was me, I'd probably do it on a whiteboard and just take a picture of it, if that would work. Depends, I guess, on how legible they want it, how pretty they want it to look. Create a joining table. So create, see if I can do this from memory. Create table, users, banks. We need an ID, user ID, just integer. Country, no, bank ID, which is also integer. And this is the hard part for me. So we want a unique constraint on user ID and bank ID. Then we want a foreign key on user ID, and that references user's ID. Then we want a foreign key on country ID, which references country's ID. I think that's it. Damn. Unrecognized token. Oh, we were talking about classes and I started using curly braces instead of parentheses. Okay, syntax error, where is it? Here. User ID error, user ID syntax error. Damn, man. I bought a large art pad thing for like $10. That's nice. Don't have no whiteboard. Dude, I have so many whiteboards. I'd send you one if it didn't cost an arm and a leg to ship it to you. I had like 3 or 4 really nice glass whiteboards that I had hung up at my gym when I owned a gym. And so when we closed the gym, they just have traveled with me everywhere now. 2 of them are put up and away, and then one of them I have out on the coffee island in the basement. They're expensive. I know that kind of sounds stupid of me to say, but whiteboards are expensive for what they are. I mean, it kind of blows you away how a nice whiteboard is actually kind of pricey. SQL logical error near user ID. Okay, so user ID appears here. It appears here. So we only have 2 places where we could have made the issue. Okay, so it's not that. I myself can afford an A4 whiteboard. Yeah, it's not so much like, for me, it's less of an affordability thing. It's more of like a value thing, you know? It's like, do I value that thing worth that? You know, that's how what every question runs through my mind. And me and my wife are so different because like the stuff she values, I'm like, that's nobody needs that ever. And then the stuff I value, she's like, nobody needs that ever. So we've had lots of long conversations about money and how to spend it, which is good. I think that it's been good for us to get to have a better understanding of each other's views on things. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly. That's how I look at stuff. It's like, yeah, it's less about, I mean, sometimes it is about affordability. And for a lot of my life, it was about affordability, you know, over the first, 14, 15 years of adulthood. And luckily enough, we've gotten to a point where sometimes now it's a little less about affordability and it's more about, could that money be spent in more optimal ways or better ways, or ways that we find more value, get more value from. I think Visio is a good product. Yeah, I like Visio. I personally, though, I've really fell in love with this. I think you guys have seen me use this on stream. Obviously, I know this doesn't help you in the case of your assignment, obviously, but I really like this Excalidraw tool. They have a paid version, but they have a free version that's really capable. This has kind of become my, and they also have a plugin for Obsidian, which is great. Swifts loves Excalidraw. Yeah, other Excalidraw fans use that at work. I do too. That's actually where I kind of started using it, because there were many times where I would have this really complex reproduction, and it was like with words, it just always sounded confusing. So I just got in the habit of like drawing, making a diagram, or it's like, things are serious whenever you start drawing boxes and arrows, Now we're doing real work. But what I can't get over about Excalidraw is it's free. It's such a capable tool, and they give it to you completely for free. And I'm pretty sure you can export it to a picture. You can also export it to a file to load it later. The one thing I do want to try is their Excalidraw Plus, because I think you can even build presentations in it. Yeah. This is the part that I would be interested in paying for. They also have a self-hosted version, which is really cool. So if you didn't want to use, their version of it, which is completely free, you don't even have to sign in to use it. That's one thing. But if you wanted your own self-hosted version of it, you can definitely do that. Yeah, like what I could be doing? Yeah, I think everybody who gets exposed to it, I think, falls in love with it. It has a really great plugin. There's a plugin for it in Obsidian, which I absolutely love, because now basically I can do everything I want in Obsidian. I can take notes and draw little diagrams, and yeah, it's a wonderful tool. But Visio is good too. It's just Visio is obviously a MS product, and most people, you got to pay extra for it. Most people don't have a license that allows them access to it, and yeah, it's not very of the people. Also, I forgot about my coffee camera. Yeah, whenever you start drawing boxes and diagrams and relationships, watch out, people. The real engineering's happening. Yeah, the license, yeah. They use it. The professional services team where I work uses it quite a bit. They use it for process and solution diagrams for clients and customers as a deliverable, which I think makes a lot of sense in a enterprise setting for documentation purposes. All right, back to it. What did I screw up? Okay, so it is something related to this. So what is... Okay, so there's something about how I define the foreign key that isn't right. Use it for system UL stuff for uni, but now it's back to by hand. You gotta do what you gotta do, right? So how do you define a foreign key? What have I screwed up? Oh, I need parentheses. Gosh darn it. Oh, and we're dealing with banks, not countries. Error, column bank's ID in foreign key definition. Oh, bank ID. There we go. Woo, that was a tough one. had me down bad. All right, now you guys are really gonna watch me be an idiot on stream because joins are, I've always found them very confusing. Okay, the simplest, most common type of join in SQL is the inner join. By default, a join command is an inner join. An inner join returns all the records in table A that have matching records in table B, as demonstrated by the following Venn diagram. To perform a table join, we need to tell the database how to match up the rows from each table. The on clause specifies the columns from which table that should be compared. Okay. So write an inner join between users and countries in that order. Return all fields from both tables. Join on the country code. So we want to select star from users. And then we want to inner join with countries. And we want to join on users.countrycode equals countries.countrycode. Success. Adjust the query to return the name and age fields from the user table. Name, age. Return the name field from the countries table and rename it to country name. Sort by country name in ascending order. So we can do order by country name. And how do we get... Okay, so this would be users.name. This would be countries.name as country name. There we go. Oh, I leveled up. I finally made it to level 80. No, level 79. Damn it. Slowly but surely. Okay, a left join will return every record from table A regardless of whether or not any of those records have a match in table B. A left join will also return any matching records from table B. Here's a Venn diagram to help visualize the effect of a left join. Okay, a small trick you can do to make writing the SQL query easier to define an alias for each table. Okay. Notice the simple alias declarations E and D for employees departments. Yeah, I actually agree with Lane's comment here. Single letter variable names. Hello, Sean Dev. How are you? Yes, we're doing SQL, man. We are doing some SQL. We're approaching level 80 in boot.dev. Okay, my query should return the following fields. So select star from users. So this is going to be users.name as name. The sum of all their transactions as transaction sum. So this would be sum users.amount as transaction sum. Okay. The count of all their transactions as transactions count. So this would just be count star. Group the data by the user's ID. So group by users.id. Order the data by the sum field in descending. So order by transaction sum descending. Be sure to still return user records for users who have no transactions. Do not alias the tables. This will fail the test. Join the users and transactions table on users.id. Okay, so I need to do a join. Okay, so we're working on a left join here. A left join will return every record from table A, regardless of whether or not any of those records have a match in table B. Yeah, so we want to left join transactions on transactions dot user ID equals user dot ID. See if that works. Hey Garrett, how are you? Oh fun, SQL, the simple looking yet challenging language. I've had my butt kicked by SQL many a time. The left join was right join debacle is a funny thing too. Dude, I don't write SQL, like this is the first time I've written SQL by hand in probably, I don't know, 2 years. I don't know. I never do it. I almost always use an ORM. Oh. So yeah, we are back to being humbled for sure. No such column users amount. Oh, so this would be transactions amount. Oh, and this would also be count transactions. No such column. I guess we could do amount. Yeah. Do not alienate. Be sure to return user records for users who have no transactions, which it looks like Al has no transactions. Yeah, that's a simple language, but this is... Yeah, it's like, I'd much rather write a C# link expression to model this. For sure. For sure. Okay, a right join is, as you may expect, the opposite of a left join. It returns all records from table B, regardless of matches, and all matching records between the two tables. All of table B data and matching data from table A. A right join is just a left join with the order of the table switched. So in most cases, left join is preferred for readability. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I don't really understand why these need to be different things. Why couldn't you just have a single left join and just switch table B to the left side and table A to the right side? We can receive the same records with a right join and a left join by flipping the position of the tables in the join statement. I'm curious what AI says. Let's see. So why the fuck do you even need left versus right? Why not just join and then, hey, you there, switch the table order if you need to? Fair question. The short answer, SQL doesn't have a plain join that returns everything from one side without specifying direction, because there are actually 4 distinct behaviors you might want. Only matching rows, all rows from left, all rows from right, all rows from both. Yeah. Huh. I don't know. This just seems like a weird redundant design to me, but okay. Like, this should just be called, to me, screw this. Screw that. Screw that. Partial. Partial join. And then whatever fucking way you put your table, that's what you get. Most SQL devs claim to only have used left join their entire career. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. I feel like the fact that it has a different name leads you to believe it does something inherently different, but it's not really inherently different, right? It just allows you to basically have flexibility of, well, I've written it this way, and so I'll just change the left and right. I'll just change the left to a right, and it'll do the opposite for me. All right? I don't know. It seems semantics, but I guess in programming is semantics is important, I guess, in programming. All right, now we're talking about the big papa. We're talking about a full join. Let's see. Full join compares the result set of the left and right. It returns all records, regardless of whether or not they have matches. Dude, I love their little diagrams. They have such good visualizations. So there's full. There's right. There's left. And there's inner. What's the best scenario to use a full join? All results from one table Every single row from two tables, whether or not they're related. Excuse me. Given the tables in query, which join type would produce the results? All right. So let's say we're joining users to transactions, and we are coming up with, it looks like, only users and their corresponding transaction data. So this is going to be an inner, because there are definitely transactions that don't have so there are definitely users who don't have transactions, as you can see from the transactions table. So this is going to be an inner. Yeah. Given the tables in query, which join type would produce the results? Okay, so if we're joining users to transactions, we're doing a left join because all of the user records are being included, even if they don't have a matching transaction. So this would be a left. We have one empty row there, but that's for transaction data. So this would be a right join. We did it, man. I can't believe I got through all those without using any armor. Oh, I only have one armor left? That's a dangerous way to live life, man. Armor up. I did a couple courses after watching you. Honestly, great place to learn. Really good explanations. Yeah, I think boot.dev is good. Yeah, it's a little pricey. I'll say it's a little expensive. Depending on where you are in the world and what you do for a living, it's a little expensive, but the gamification for me has been well worth, I don't know, at this point I'm probably over 3 hours a day for the last 21 days or more. I mean, I'm well over 90 hours probably of total time spent, right? That's good entertainment value in my opinion. That's like, you know, buying a couple video games. So select star from users. Let's see what's going on here. Okay. The query must return the following fields: ID, name, age, username, the user's country name renamed to country name, the sum of the amounts of all successful transactions from the user renamed to balance. Return only a single user record, specifically the one whose ID is 6. Okay, let's start there. Let's see if we can just return. So we'll say where users.id equals 6. Okay, so we got Alan. And then let's limit the field. So we want ID, name, age, username. Okay. Now let's see if we can't add the country name. So country name is going to be countries.name as country name, right? And in order to do that, we're going to have to do a inner. I think we do an inner join. I think we could do a left join too. Let's do a left join, just in case Alan doesn't have a corresponding left join with countries on countries dot country code equals no countries dot the user's country name renamed to the country name. So I guess we would do it on equals user country code, like that. Ambiguous column name ID. Oh, user. We should have done this first. Okay, let's organize this a little bit so it makes sense to all of us, or at least to me. Put all the fields on individual lines. Okay. Yep. Okay, so we have our country name now, United States. So we've got that, we've got this, we got this, we got this, we got this. All right, now we need to sum the sum of the amounts of all successful transactions from the user renamed to balance. So we have to do it multiple joins. So I think we want another. No, I think we want an inner join. Because we only want. We want all the data from the left, but we don't. But from the transactions, we only want the matching. So we'll do transactions. And this will be on transactions dot user ID equals user dot ID. And we're going to alias this to what? Balance. So we'll do sum of transactions dot amount as balance. And then the part that I don't know how to do is, does the where clause include just the, I honestly don't know where that should go. I guess we can put it here to start with. So we'll say user ID equals 6 and transactions dot was successful equals true. Let's see, syntax error near sum. Oh. Okay, I think that's good. Yeah, okay, cool. So is the right mental model for how the query executes the following? We select the columns. We join the data into the table. Then we apply the filters from the where to that joined table. Okay, the database first builds the combined data set, starts with the users, then joins countries and transactions onto it row by row, producing one big intermediate table. The where filter is applied to that intermediate joined table, which is why you can put transactions dot was successful. And then select, only now does it pick out the specific columns you asked for. Okay, so select actually happens after the join. Okay, that's good to know. That's probably something I should have already known. Write a SQL statement that includes an inner join and returns the following: the user's name, the user's username, the count of support tickets attributed to that user, labeled as support ticket count. Break. Big yawn. Big yawn. Hey, what's up, Saya? Sorry, I was spending some of my break time responding to some YouTube comments. But other than that, I hope you're doing well. You're on a tea break? I love it. Yeah, I'm on a coffee break. I'm on a sit and not do anything break. I do want to actually, while we're here on break for a second, I actually do want to set up, that took a long time to load, didn't it? I want to set up a repository for BRB. Oh, did that already exist? Oh, I guess I already set this up. Okay, cat readme. Yeah, I already did it. Okay, cool. This is a thing I want to build. .NET run. I want to build this for my be right back. So basically, instead of using a PowerShell function like this, I'm going to use a single file app in .NET to just write a simple little script that does this. I'm going to use Spectre console. Probably Spectre console and system.command line is what I'll use. I don't know if I can do this though in NeoVim. I don't think my NeoVim supports single file programs, which kind of sucks. Wonder if there's an issue somewhere over here somewhere. OmniSharp, NeoVim file-based apps. I need to migrate to Roslyn. I don't know if they ever added that. Hold on, before we continue on to the next thing. Roslyn, no, Mason, Neovim. I don't think they ever added this to the registry. Roslyn. Okay, maybe they did. Maybe they did add it. Let's check. Neovim, Mason, C#. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Okay, we're gonna I'm calling an audible. We're gonna now spend the rest of the stream migrating my C# Neovim LSP from OmniSharp to Roslyn. So that's what we're gonna do. Git status, git checkout B, migrate to Roslyn. Okay, so let's go over to LSP. And in here somewhere, there should be some OmniSharp stuff. So we basically need to take all this stuff out. I think this is the one that's now. Okay. You can install with Mason. Note that this is still installing from NuGet.org, which is not necessarily up to date with the same version used in VS Code. For the time being, I would recommend using a custom registry to get more up-to-date version for this. You need to use a custom. When was the last time this was updated? This was updated 3 weeks ago. What did he change in here? You can install. Well, that's stupid. I don't understand. Why did we then... Huh. That's frustrating to me, because it's like I waited for Mason to include it. Now he's still saying I need a custom registry. That's fine. That's fine. I'll just screw it. Screw it. Where is Mason at in my configs? Okay. And then some tips and tricks that may be useful, but in the scope of this plugin are documented in the wiki. These settings are not guaranteed to be up to date. New ones can appear in the future. Okay, let me contrast this against mvim lsp. So are these the default ones? I think those are the defaults. Yeah, default config. All right, let's just full send. Let's just full send enable. Okay, so let's strip out anything OmniSharp related. Where are you? OmniSharp extend. I think we can remove that. OmniSharp. We can remove this. And I think replace that with that. And I think there's some other commands I had added. Don't think we need this. I don't think we need any. I don't think we need this if-else statement anymore. Okay, I think that will do it. Now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and reload. Pull up Mason. Okay, and we should have some new registries here. We should go to Control F. Nope. Control F, C#. So which one of these do I want to use? I think Roslyn is the one I want to use. Based on what this guy said. Yeah, this is supposedly the same version that's in VS Code. But obviously they're doing something kind of hacky to get at it. Okay. All right, let's see if that changed how we handle. Okay, we don't seem to be attaching. Check health LSP. Enabled configuration, so nothing attached. So is Roslyn? I think it's enabled. Okay, so I'm guessing the reason why it's not attaching is because it basically can't figure out that it's in a C# workspace because there's no solution file, there's no CS project file. So I think what we'll have to do, file based. There we go. Support file-based program mode. With the new version, maybe it works with workspace required. Okay. Okay. So we can then, dude, this is baller if this works, because this is really the only use case where I've been using where I've been using VS Code still, because I can't get this to work. But if this works, Roslyn. So we want. Just need to configure it. No. Nope. Does not seem to be attaching. This was 2025. I don't think there's anything left for me to do. What did he change here? If not client.config.rootdir, then return. Hey, what's up, Mark? Good morning, man. How are you doing? Okay, I wonder if I need to try in a new terminal. Control Shift. Yeah. Go to config. Oh no, go to this one. Maybe the language server wasn't in my path in that old shell. Huh. Okay, let's just make sure it works in a non Steve's let's see, Steve's bot. Let's just see if Rosalind detects this. Oh, there we go. I think something happened. Although there we go. Okay, so yeah, it's working. Wonderful. Now let's try to see if we edit the editor config, if it picks up the changes. Prefer conditional return lambda. Prefer expression bodied lambdas? No. It should be false and it should be silent. LSP restart. What you working on? Well, we were doing SQL in boot.dev, and then for whatever reason, I got a wild hair and decided to work on migrating my C# setup in NeoVim from OmniSharp to Roslyn, which Roslyn is the newer language server and compiler for C#. It's what, you know, if you're using Visual Studio or using Visual Studio Code, that's largely what you're using. And I was using OmniSharp, which is kind of the older and now deprecated or kind of outdated language server for C#. So I was just working on migrating that over. But I ran into a case where it's not working for single file apps. I don't know why that's still reporting an error. Is there multiple LSPs attached? Check health LSP. I'm gonna guess there's multiple versions. Yeah, there's 2. No, there's only one. It's just attached to 2 different buffers. Okay, so why? Why then isn't it triggering a refresh? LSP restart. Okay, now it's seems to be okay. All right, I don't know why I'm getting 3 warnings for the same line. Is it because each buffer is reporting? Let's try that. So if I delete these, what happens now? Okay, weird. So it's like duplicating. The more buffers I have open, it duplicates the warning that's open.
Did we just become best friends?
Huh. Hey, what's up, Roland? Thanks for subbing, man. That's super weird. So I'm guessing if I go to this file now, this is going to report a bunch of duplicates. Yeah, there's basically a duplicate for every buffer. There's a diagnostic in the same file. That can't be right, right? That's got to be. That can't be right. Okay, let's go back to. Let's go back here. And let's just let's turn off the file-based. Let's just comment this out and see if that has anything to do with what we're experiencing. Okay, there's Roslyn. So Roslyn's doing its thing. And in a second, these should show up as being used. There you go. And then if we go down into our tests, I don't remember where that was reporting an issue. We can make this one come back though. There we go. So there's an error. Ah, see, there's still, hold on, are those all different ones? Yeah, those are all, so these are all correct now. Fix all, oh yeah. Oh man, oh, this is awesome. This was not available with OmniSharp, and now it is. So I can fix all these issues in the entire solution. That's wonderful. Okay, that's a huge upgrade. So how do I make file-based apps then play nicely so that I don't get those duplicate? So I don't get the duplicate. That's the question. Okay, that doesn't have anything to do with me. Duplicate diagnostics. Oh shit, it's 818. Okay. Okay. So I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to do some sort of custom... I'm going to have to handle... Choose target. Optional function that takes a selected target as the only argument. I am, for example, using this to disable a solution with a lot of .NET framework code on Mac. Whether or not to look for solution files in the child of the root. Set this to true if you have some projects that are not a child of the directory with the solution file. Okay, it's good to know. Basically, what I want to do is I basically want to have a custom attach where if it doesn't find a solution or a CS proj, but it does find a C# file, we should still attach to the C# file. I wonder... File mode. This guy's figuring all this out by just reading the guts of the tests. Okay, let me try this. Switch to NeoVim configs. Open that up. Go into the LSP again. LSP. Roslyn. So what does this map to? C#. Let's see. Roslyn. C#. I may not get this finished before we wrap up today, but I'll it'll be in my, once I get it squared away, I'll merge it into my main branch on my NeoVim config repo if you're curious. All right, I gotta use the bathroom, and it's 8:30, so I'm gonna wrap up stream. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. It's been fun. It was a quiet stream, but sometimes quiet streams are nice. Get a lot done in the meantime. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Thursday, and if you already had your Thursday, I hope it was great. And I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. All right, bye. See you guys.